2 important things. Actually, I should say 3. The float fishing is 1, coffee. 2, can of corn. 3, can opener. I like to open them actually at the house normally and dump them into a Ziploc bag, so a little bit less waste, and don't take that risk of cutting yourself one of these cans, so, which I've done plenty of times. So there you go. There's tip number 1, 2, and 3 for you. And do not by any means waste that can water. Use that for your ground bait. One thing I want you to take notice of is my positioning. I'm basically fishing really close to the front of my rod. Like I said, I'm maybe just about 7 or 8 feet off the bank. That's a little bit further out this time. I always like to cast beyond where I've been baiting up and then bring it in, so I'm not spooking the fish, especially in the shallow water. They're very spooky. But if you can see, I got my rod tip close to the water, and I'm trying to keep my line as tight as possible, taut. But I want my float is just barely above the surface. There's a little guy, a spot or something. No, it is a baby carp. There you go. Pretty cool. Been catching quite a few of these little boogers. It's pretty neat. He's about the size of a white perch. It's handheld. There you go. Really cool. So that fish interrupted my lesson, but that's okay. I'm just gonna side hook some sweet corn here and get it back out there. So like I said, cast beyond where you're baiting up, and then bring it, hold your rod tip down, get that line wet to sink it. I use monofilament, never braid. Braid floats, and it's just not very good to use for any type of float fishing, bobber fishing. But I do like it for other methods of carp fishing, you know, fishing with bottom rigs and such. But anytime I can get away with using mono, I prefer to use mono. Like I said, light line, and looks like my shot may have moved a little bit, or this tide is really coming in. So I'm gonna move that up just a couple inches. There we go. All right, flip her out. Like I said, bring that line tight, sink it best you can, and keep that rod tip low to the water for your hook set, because that's the advantage of having a longer line. There we go. Another little guy. What we got here? little spot. Yeah, so unfortunately you will catch some fish like this, perch, spot. I've caught all kind of things float fishing, and this is a perfect size to live line if you were out there in the bay trying to catch some rockfish, trout or whatever. Definitely a good size for that. But you know, that long rod actually helps you get that line up quick to set that hook. And I like my rod down low because it picks the line up faster when that line is tight. So like I said, sink it, and then you can pop your rod tip to get that float to come back up to the surface. And there it is. I'm not sure if you can see it that far out, but it's out there a good ways. And you're just waiting for that float to pop up out of the water. Now you'll get some tidal movements and, you know, waves and such that'll move your bobber up and down in a, you know, in a wave pattern. So you have to distinguish the bite from that. So when you see just something like irregular, with a quick jump up. That's when you kind of want to set that hook from where I'm at now. And there we go. Here's a bigger carp. Not a big one, but a bigger carp. Feels like he may be foul hooked, which you'll get that too. Or a catfish. It is. He's a channel cat. So you never know what you're going to get float fishing. And you can hear that drag peeling a little bit. You know, I got my drag really loose. You can see that rod flexes really, really well. That's perfect. You know, this is about a 4 or 5 pound catfish. You know, not a big one, not a giant, but definitely a good size eater, and definitely something I'm going to have to net. So another good tip is always keep your net handy, because you don't want to be searching around looking for a net. And everybody says, man, that's a big net. I'm like, well, it's easier to put a big fish in a big net, or even a little fish in a big net, than the opposite. There we go, Mr. Caddy. Get him up here and get him unhooked and get him back in. Not bad, little channel catfish. Stay tuned, guys. Have some more tips for you. Well, you saw that. That was a bite that I missed, many of which I will do all day today. We have some nuisance fish here. We have some spot, white perch, and some baby carp, as you just saw. I won't call it a carp nuisance because I'm actually trying to catch them. So catching a small one is actually pretty cool. But trying to get a big one. Hopefully you can see that float out there in the distance. There you go. Not very far out. Maybe 2 rod lengths out, and that's it. Fishing the lift method, and that's I got enough shot on there that pulls the float down, sinks it, and when that fish picks up that shot near the hook, that float actually comes up out of the water, and you set the hook. Pretty simple, very effective. I'm just adding small bits of bait often, not trying to spook them and not trying to feed too many at the same time. Small handfuls every few minutes near the float, not dumping bait in like crazy. Definitely got some carp in the area right now. See some bubbling going on down there. Could be crabs. I am in a tidal creek. This creek actually has everything from striped bass to channel catfish, carp, spot. Even caught a cow-nosed ray here last week. So you may have seen that picture on our Facebook page. There's some action going on right now. Yeah, like I was mentioning, how you never know what you're going to get in these tidal creeks. This is a doubler. First time ever hooked 2 crabs at once. But that's pretty cool. That's a male on top of a female mating. And just snagged it really. But pretty cool. Yes, I am going to let them go, because I'm not crabbing today. Pretty cool. Crabs. That's a keeper on the top, by the way. Can't keep the females. Alright, I'd like to give you a little rundown of my my float rod setup. Is basically, it's a salmon rod. It's designed for salmon fishing. This is a salmon float rod. This is a G Loomis E6X, and it's a 9.5 foot. As you can see there, it's medium light. It's got enough backbone to be able to, you know, pull in some decent sized carp. It's not really meant for, you know, 25 and bigger carp, but I have caught some nice fish on it, up to 25 on this rod, and at least that big. And my son got this rod for me for Christmas a few years ago, and I was very appreciative of that. I love this rod. Like I said, it's 9.5 foot. You definitely want a longer rod. Probably want to go with a little bit heavier reel for line capacity. This is a Shimano Sahara 2500 series. You know, it's a mid-range reel. I love Shimano and Daiwa. That's pretty much all I use on my reels, and best drag by far in the market to me is the Shimano. So it's got a great drag. You need that. I use light line. I use 4 to 6, sometimes up to 8. This has 6-pound test on it, and you just have to use, you know, some caution. You know, if you're fishing in snaggy waters and stuff like that where you're going to lose a lot of fish, you kind of want to up your game. But for here, I'm fishing, you know, open water with, like I said, my float rod setup is 6-pound test, small hook. This is a Nash, I believe it's a Nash size 7, which are, they have the weird sizes in the UK, but it's a size 7, which is ideal for what I do. You know, a couple grains of sweet corn on there, 2-shot, about 4 to 5 inches away from the hook, and I have a float stop up there holding my waggler float, which I'll bring down here, show it to you, in addition to another shot. So this one is a NGT waggler. It'll tell you on most of them, you know, 2 BBs will basically balance it, and I have 3 on here, so I'm fishing the lift method, so I'm actually sinking it. This one actually has a weight on there, if you can see that. Not the greatest floats, but you know, they're affordable, and you can get these from Bass Pro. No, you cannot. You have to get these from the UK, or you can get them from our friends down there at Big Carp Tackle. They have plenty of these for you in stock, and they are reasonably priced. So like I said, it's pretty simple. You want to find your depth and then mark it with your float stop. I'm penning this float because I have a 6-pound test line on here, and this float actually has a really small hole, and the line doesn't go through it all that well. You could take a needle and heat it up and kind of open that up if you want to do that, or use a snap swivel, which is what I use a lot of times on these types of floats. But I'm only fishing in about 5 feet of water, so with the 9.5 foot rod, it's easy to get that length without any problems, and you know, it's pretty easy to cast as well. So I'm going to get back out here and see if I can't catch another one. Stay tuned. Yeah, you know, when you catch a fish, you definitely want to take yourself a handful and pitch it back out right over top of your bait, right over the top of where you're fishing. The tighter the better. You know, if you can keep a little spot, you know, within that little circle that you just saw me throw it in, you can kind of keep fish there all day. Not saying you'll catch them all day, but you can definitely keep them active and feeding, and that's important. You know, it's kind of like how the match fishermen do it. And there's some really good match fishermen out there. They're fun to watch. If you haven't seen that, check that out on YouTube. Do a search for match fishing. You know, they have competition where to see how many pounds of fish they can catch in a period. We are not getting the big ones, are we? We're just not finding the big ones today. We're definitely finding little guys. still fun to catch. See you in 10 years. You'll probably hear in the background the wind has really picked up. It's gotten cloudy. Tide has basically stopped. And so has the bites. Fortunately, that's fishing. Definitely had high hopes today. You will miss a lot of bites. Part of the game. Like I said, having everything close by definitely makes it more enjoyable. Makes it more enjoyable, you know, if you have your drink here, your bait there, and cup holder, net, mat right nearby, and you're only fishing within a couple feet of the rod tip. It can be kind of boring to some people, but you know, when the action's good, which unfortunately right now it's not the greatest, but you know, if you keep on baiting them, they will come, they will show up, and they'll stay there. I'm just figuring out these fish in this creek. I've lived here for 15 years and just now starting to catch them. Crazy as it sounds, but this just seems to be the way. They're just in close and they don't travel too far away from the shoreline and the grass line. And sooner or later I'm gonna get a banger out of here, a 30-pounder, but hopefully I'll get that on film and share it with you. But oh, that might have been a carp or a crab. A steady weight when I pull back. Town City. Oh boy. There we go. One more. We got it. All right, so I'm gonna try one more cast here. And I'm going to throw out the rest of this corn in the area, maybe stop by later this evening. And since it's so nice outside, I got to put some ribs on the smoker and clean the yard up a bit. Do all that good stuff that nobody ever wants to do when it's nice out like this, but it's probably the best time to do it, so you're not out there sweating your butt off. So, thanks for watching. We appreciate you. We'll see you on the next one.